All right, let's dive right in. Look, I know you're serious about building wealth. You're tracking your numbers, you're making the sacrifices, doing everything right. But there's this hidden wealth building trap. It's a very specific mathematical phase where, honestly, the vast majority of people just give up. So in today's explainer, we're going to map out exactly where this trap is hiding, why it trips up so many incredibly dedicated savers, and, most importantly, how you can push through it. We've got some fascinating data to decode today that completely flips the script on traditional financial advice, and we're going to break down exactly how the math and the psychology play out behind the scenes.
$100,000. If you've spent, any time at all in the personal finance space, you have absolutely heard this massive number hyped up. People love to say that only the first 100K matters, or that hitting the six-figure mark is literally the hardest thing you'll ever do in your financial life. It gets treated like the ultimate finish line for beginners, but we're going to bust that myth right now. Don't get me wrong, hitting $100,000 is a fantastic achievement, for sure, but focusing all of your mental energy on this huge, distant number, it's actually setting you up for failure. It totally blinds you to the real danger zone that hits much, much earlier in the journey.
Now, what's super interesting here is the professional perspective we get when we look at the raw data of human financial behavior. We have this massive reality check from an accountant who analyzes this day in and day out. Here is their exact quote. Everyone talks about the first 100K, but as an accountant, I've noticed the most dangerous phase is actually between 10K and 40K. I mean, really think about that for a second. An accountant sees the exact point where people just stop saving, the exact point where they give in to lifestyle inflation and just abandon their investment accounts. And the data shows it doesn't happen right before the six-figure mark. No way. It happens right here in this tight little window between 10 and 40 grand. This is literally where dreams of financial independence go to die.
So this critical phase actually has a name. We call it the dead zone. It's that financial middle between $10,000 and $40,000 where most people just get stuck. And I really want to emphasize something here. This is not just some personal feeling of being in a rut. This is a legitimate mathematical phase of wealth building. See, when you're below $10,000, every single dollar you save feels like a massive victory, right? You're building up that emergency fund, getting out of immediate danger, and the progress is visible. It's rapid. It's exciting. But once you cross into the dead zone, the rules of the game secretly change on you. And that feeling of exciting progress, it suddenly evaporates.
And the reason the dead zone feels so incredibly terrible comes down to a brutal mathematical mismatch. So on one hand, you are putting in maximum effort, high saving effort. You're bringing your lunch to work. You're skipping those vacations, budgeting every single dollar. You are essentially pushing a massive boulder up a steep hill. The physical and mental energy you're spending is at an absolute maximum. But on the other hand, because your overall nest egg is only sitting somewhere between $10,000 and $40,000, your passive income is barely a trickle. Think about it. A 5% return on $20,000 is just $1,000 a year. That is less than $3 a day. You're putting in this monumental effort, but the mathematical reward working for you in the background is, well, it's virtually invisible.
And because those savings aren't generating any kind of significant, life-changing returns yet, the whole process just morphs into this endless, boring grind. Which brings us to the ultimate threat, burnout. Look, if you're in the dead zone right now and you're feeling incredibly frustrated, I want to completely validate that feeling for you. You are supposed to feel frustrated. The mechanics of compound interest haven't fully kicked in to help you yet. You are doing all the heavy lifting entirely on your own, month after month, year after year, with basically zero passive help from your portfolio. And that prolonged lack of a reward, it's a massive psychological trap. It leads straight to burnout, and it causes thousands of people to just throw in the towel and, go buy a new car they can't afford just to feel something. Okay, so we're definitely not just going to talk about the problem and leave you hanging. There are clear, actionable strategies to help you escape this trap. So how do we actually get out? The strategy really boils down to 3 steps. First up, simply acknowledge that you are in the financial middle. You've got to recognize that the dead zone is just a natural, totally expected phase. It's not a sign that you're doing something wrong. Next, you have to maintain your momentum through the boring phase, and the best way to do that is to automate. Just stop checking your accounts every single day expecting massive growth because the math simply isn't there yet. You just have to automate the grind. And finally, put your head down and actively push to the turning point. You have to rely on sheer discipline, not the excitement of massive returns, to force your way through this sludge.
To really conquer this whole thing, we need to zoom out a bit and look at the broader framework. Specifically, there are 3 net worth milestones that change everything. By mapping this out, you can pinpoint exactly where you are on the journey. So, we know about the $10,000 to $40,000 dead zone, where all that initial excitement just totally wears off. And we know the final goal, right? Escaping the financial middle, breaking past that $40,000 mark where compound interest finally starts to show its teeth. But sitting right smack in the middle between those two milestones is a highly targeted beacon of hope that we absolutely need to talk about.
That beacon of hope is $20,000. While the dead zone stretches all the way up to $40,000, 20 grand is this specific, hidden milestone hiding right in the middle. The key takeaway here is that everything changes after 20K. Why? Because $20,000 is the psychological and mathematical turning point. It is the exact moment where your pile of money is finally large enough that a good month in the stock market actually produces a visible, tangible dollar amount. It's that magical point where you check your accounts and realize, wait a minute, my money just made a car payment for me. Hitting 20,000 is the turning point that gives you the absolutely crucial psychological boost of momentum you need to survive the rest of the boring minute.
So the real question isn't whether you'll eventually reach $100,000. The question is, are you disciplined enough to push through the dead zone to actually get there? Today, we busted the myth of the six-figure finish line and exposed the true danger lurking between 10 and 40 grand. You now understand the mathematical reality of why the boring middle feels so incredibly unrewarding, and exactly why you need to aggressively push to that $20,000 turning point to completely shift your momentum. Do not let the lack of passive income burn you out before the magic of compounding actually begins. So, now that you know about the mathematical trap hiding in plain sight, how will you automate your way out of the boring middle? The turning point is waiting for you.